What should we call the sea between the Korean Peninsula, Japan, and Russia? Should we call it the East Sea or the Sea of Japan? As a direct result of Japan's colonization of the Korean Peninsula, the term Sea of Japan was adopted at the 1929 meeting of the International Hydrographic Organization. Experts say that at least both names should be used, as Koreans have been using East Sea for the past 2,000 years. This view of experts is gaining wide understanding and recognition. Moreover, the UN has recommended the simultaneous use of both names until such time as the countries concerned reach an agreement. The name East Sea, supported by people around the world, is appearing again on world maps. However, Japan continues to ignore this recommendation, insisting that the Sea of Japan is the only legitimate designation for the area. And Japan continues to argue that Korea has waited too long to bring the dispute to the attention of the international community. Is this really true?
The first time that Korea officially brought the issue to the attention of the world was in 1992 at the UN Conference on the Standardization of Geographical Names, UNCSGN, soon after Korea joined the UN in 1991.
Korea for a long time was dependent on on Japan. So it was not independent. It was occupied by Japan, and therefore, during the seminars about the naming of the seas, Korea had no chance to have any influence on the naming of the seas. And in 1953, Korea was at war. They had no chance to talk about the naming of the sea.
As post-war Korea had to concentrate on economic development, the Korean government had not been able to raise this issue in the international community. But after the war, for over 30 years now, civic and academic circles have continued to raise the issue of East Sea, seeking to persuade the international community. Following its admission to the UN in 1991, the Korean government officially raised the issue of East Sea in the international arena in 1992.
The Korean government's argument that both names, East Sea and Sea of Japan, should be used, pending an agreement on a common name between Korea and Japan, is gaining international recognition and support. For example, many maps in various countries are beginning to print both East Sea and Sea of Japan, and both the IHO and the UNCSGN recommend concerned parties to work towards reaching an agreement. Still, the Japanese government continues to ignore this recommendation, citing possible confusion in aviation and navigation. Is this argument tenable?
Let's take a look at similar cases around the world. In such disputes, the IHO advises the countries concerned to adopt the simultaneous use of the names in question. A good example is the English Channel, lying between England and France. Although both terms, the English Channel and La Manche, are used, there has been no confusion in the skies or on the seas. On the contrary, the acceptance of the dual terms has facilitated navigation and aviation in the region and promoted smoother trade.
As I mentioned, international organizations such as the UN and the IHO recommend that parties concerned consult with each other and reach an agreement when they have conflicting positions on deciding the name of a sea. Accordingly, Korea continues in its earnest efforts to engage in dialogue with the Japanese government. Yet, the Japanese have not responded to such efforts. Why is Japan reluctant to engage in such talks with Korea? Well, we may find the answer by turning to the rational and correct rules for deciding upon place names in the international community.
When naming seas, the IHO and the UN recommend that the name used by residents of the area in question should be the primary consideration. Hence, East Sea, a name that has been widely used in the region for 2,000 years, should take precedence over Sea of Japan, a term which has been around for only a few decades. And many scholars have agreed with this view and begun pointing out the need to use East Sea, or at least use both names.
지명은 그 지역에 살고 있는 사람들이 부르는 이름을 따르는 것이 관행입니다. 그것은 지리학자들도 모두 인정하고 있는 바입니다. 남북한 7천만이 모두 동해라고 부르고 있는 이 바다의 이름을 지도에 동해로 표기하는 것은 이러한 관행과 학계의 방침에도 부응하는 것입니다. 한반도의 동쪽에 있는 바다를 남북한 주민 모두 동해라고 부르고 있으므로 이 바다의 이름을 동해로 표기하는 것에 무리가 없을 것입니다.
The world's most reputable map publishers, media houses, and geographical name committees have recognized the validity of the name the East Sea. As a result, East Sea is increasingly being used simultaneously with Sea of Japan, and in many cases, recognized as the only legitimate name. There is a growing awareness of this issue around the world.
East Sea of the Eurasian continent. Tonghae means the sea where the sun rises. This is the name that has been used for 2,000 years and today is still called by 70 million Koreans. Korea will continue in its efforts for the name East Sea, used by 70 million Koreans, and the correct and rational term recognized by experts around the world to be established on the maps of the world.